In this video,
how do you even dodge that, bro? This is cooked. I'm gonna have to shave my head, bro. Yes! What do we do?
the Pantheons of Hallownest. 4 unforgiving boss rushes with 40 bosses total to defeat. And to top it all off, if I don't complete this challenge within the next 2 days, I have to shave my head bald for the next month. What exactly are these Pantheons? Well, each Pantheon has 10 bosses that you face back to back to back, with only one pause after the 5th boss. The order of the Pantheons from easiest to hardest is Pantheon of the Master, Pantheon of the Artist, Pantheon of the Sage, Pantheon of the Knight, and the final Pantheon, the Pantheon of Hallownest, or more widely known as P5. However, in this challenge, I'm only required to beat the first 4 Pantheons within 2 days. But don't worry, I will tackle the challenge of P5 soon. During my challenge, I started with the Pantheon of the Sage, which in hindsight was a bad idea, considering it is the hardest Pantheon you have access to if you haven't already beaten the first 3. But I never do my research before going into these challenges, so I didn't know what I was getting myself into. The Pantheon of the Sage doesn't have a particularly difficult first half, being made up of the Hive Knight, Elder Hugh, the Collector, God Tamer, and Troop Master Grim. In fact, my only deaths in the first half came from Grim, and that was only because I was trying to get to the second half faster. The second half of the Pantheon is where I started to have some real trouble. The Prince Zope fight was proving to be on a whole other level than the other bosses. Even though I was going into the fight with full health plus some extra soul because Galleon was light work, it felt like every run I had ended at Zope, or directly after him because I didn't have enough health to take out Umu. I tried over and over again to beat Zope, and after some practicing in the Hall of Gods, I was finally able to take him out with a decent amount of health left. Even though I had reached Umu a couple of times, I had never figured out how to beat it because unlike my original playthrough, I had to hit these jellyfish to make Umu vulnerable to my attacks. I could not figure out how to do this consistently without taking damage, but once I figured out what I had to do, I defeated Umu with only 1 life left. At the time, I didn't know what boss was next. All I knew was that I needed to heal a lot if I was going to be able to beat the last boss in the Pantheon. Lucky for me, Hornet was the next boss, and after my main playthrough of the game where I spent 5 hours on the second Hornet fight, this battle was cake. And soon enough, I was back to full health and ready to take on whatever the Pantheon had to offer for the final boss. The final boss of the Pantheon was Sly, who at first glance I thought wouldn't be too hard, but I quickly realized I had underestimated this fight. He was flying around my screen, swinging his nail everywhere, but I did what I know how to do best, and just tanked the damage while doing as much damage as I could myself. This strategy took me past his first phase, but once he started identifying as an attack helicopter, I knew I was cooked. Now, all I had to do was do all of that again and figure out how to dodge his second phase attack. After fighting through Zope and Umu, I make it back to Sly, but this time I was ready. I had figured out how to dodge his second phase attack most of the time, and I was able to finally take him out and finish the Pantheon of the Sage.
Yes! What do we do?
After the tough fights in the first Pantheon, I was honestly more than a little scared going into the second Pantheon, which consisted of Zero, Crystal Guardian, Soul Master, Oblobbles, Mantis Lords, Marmu, Nosk, Fluke Marm, Broken Vessel, and Paint Master Shiro. But somehow I was able to do something I thought was unthinkable.
Ever die? Oh my gosh. Nice. Nice. Let's go!
Shockingly, I was able to complete the Pantheon of the Artist on my first try. It was like a weight lifting off my shoulders as I realized I had done the Pantheons in reverse order, hardest to easiest, or so I thought. Still riding the high of first trying the Pantheon of the Artist,
I entered into the Pantheon of the Master expecting a cakewalk, and I was right. The Pantheon was the easiest by far, consisting of the Vengefly King, Gruz Mother, the False Knight, Moss Charger, Hornet, Gorb, Dung Defender, Soul Warrior, and the Brooding Moloch. But something interesting happened when I went into the last fight of the Pantheon. With Oro, I was flying through the boss fight, taking damage here and there, but ultimately feeling like I was doing pretty good. That was until I knocked down Oro, and instead of the fight finishing, Motto jumped down to fight as well. I could handle one, but two at the same time was far too much for me to handle, and they quickly killed me, leaving me questioning whether or not this would really be the easiest Pantheon. I went back to that fight again and again, but something needed to change if I was going to beat this duo. So I did what I knew I would have to. I went to change my Fragile Strength charm into Unbreakable Strength to finally finish my charm loadout and fully realize its potential. Except there was one problem. I was broke. And to upgrade my charm to Unbreakable, I was going to need 15,000 Geo. And with only a few hours left until my first day was over, I knew where I had to go to. I farmed the Coliseum until I had enough Geo to upgrade my charm and put me back on track to finish this challenge on time, and to not shave my head. I equipped my new charm, and I headed into the Pantheon of the Master one last time. Relieved that I was able to finish the first 3 Pantheons in the first day and that my charm loadout actually worked, I was ecstatic as I watched the doors to the 4th Pantheon open in front of me. But that can wait until tomorrow. Waking up on the second day of the challenge, I wasn't concerned at all about finishing the challenge. I had breezed past the first 3 Pantheons. Surely I could beat the 4th with a whole day left to complete it. I entered into the Pantheon of the Night, and it was what I expected it to be for the most part, consisting of some of the more powerful bosses I hadn't fought yet, including the Enraged Guardian, Lost Kin, No Eyes, Traitor Lord, White Defender, Failed Champion, Markoth, the Watcher Knights, and the Soul Tyrant. I was able to breeze past all of these bosses on my first attempt with relative ease, and going into the final boss of this Pantheon, I wasn't sure what I was expecting it to be, but it definitely wasn't a harder version of the Hollow Knight. The Pure Vessel would prove to be a very difficult fight, while not only being faster than the Hollow Knight, but also adding on new abilities that were more difficult to dodge that all did twice as much damage. Even though I had gotten to the Pure Vessel fight easily, I was extremely worried about this challenge at this point. I had 6 hours left to defeat the Pure Vessel, and I wasn't sure I could. After a couple more tries at the Pantheon, I decided I would train just the Pure Vessel fight in the Hall of Gods until I got it down completely. I had finally mastered the Pure Vessel fight, even getting to the point where I defeated it without even using my dash once. But at this point, I only had 40 minutes left to complete the challenge. I went back to the Pantheon and tried once again. I still don't know exactly how I managed to fumble and die to the easier bosses in the Pantheon, but it was a mistake that I would make sure didn't happen again. Oh my God! I only had 25 minutes left to complete this challenge. It was now or never. I did it. I made it to the Pure Vessel fight. At this point, there was no way I could lose. I had mastered this fight. It turns out, when the pressure is on, when the weight of the whole challenge is on your shoulders, you can't perform. With only 11 minutes left in the challenge, there was no way I would be able to complete this Pantheon in time. But that didn't mean I couldn't try. I blasted through the Pantheon, getting back to the Pure Vessel with 5 minutes left in the challenge. This was it. I had to do it now or do it alone. There was no other option.
Yes! Yeah!
At last, I'd finally defeated the Pure Vessel, and with it, the 4 Pantheons. The only problem was, it was too late. In fact, by the time I got to the Pure Vessel fight, my time to complete the challenge had already passed.
My gosh.
Thank you so much for watching until the end. If I reach 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year, I have to shave my head for the entire year of 2026.